Italy? Whiskey? Ah, Italy, you could never unlock my secret. Oh no, suddenly, hello, Libby. Let's begin. Indeed.
Hello everyone and welcome to Honey Badger Radio. My name is Brian and I am joined by a very special guest, Hammerhand IX, or is it just Hammerhand? I know that you have.
Like, it's 9. It'll be 10 soon. As soon as we get to about 20K, they'll kill it.
Okay, so you've made this channel a few times, I take it.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
Well, it's good to have you on. I gotta be honest with you. I didn't learn about the existence of your channel until somewhat recently. I guess it's just YouTube doing what it do, because honestly, like, I discovered this whole sort of like red pill space through the MGTOW content creators. The first person I was exposed to was Barbarossa, and I went down. Yeah, it was like 11, 12 years ago, and you know, I just kept following the white rabbit, and here I am doing HBR for 10 years. So I found your content, and I really liked, you know, your takes on things, and people were asking about, you know, getting you on when I mentioned that I came across your stuff, particularly because you were responding to a Lotus Eaters video that drove me up the wall when I saw it. And you know, I watched it, and I was like ranting at my friends and stuff about it, and then your video came up where you were responding to it. So welcome to the show, and it's good to have you on, and I'm sorry that I didn't know about you sooner.
It's my pleasure to be here, and you're not supposed to know about me. That's the way that YouTube wants it.
Yeah, exactly right, exactly right. So I guess I want to know a little bit about your story, if you're willing to share it. Like, how do you come to basically, you know, be the character that you are in this sort of corner of the internet?
Well, I don't really consider myself to be a character. You know, I've just always told anybody that asked about that I'm just a guy. I'm just a man. I just got tired of having people try to step on my neck and silence me and tell me that I was wrong, and that the things that I was seeing with my own 2 eyes weren't true. You know, there's too much of that's going around out here in the world. They call it gaslighting today. We just called it lying right to your face, you know, a few years ago.
Yeah.
So, you know, they come up with different names, different words and different sayings for things that have already been established, just trying to twist you and contort you and point you in a different way and make you not believe in the things that you know you see. You know, we all see the problems that are out here in the culture. We all see that we live in upside down world, in clown world. And I'm not going along with the clown ride. Not doing it. Doing it. So.
Yeah, absolutely. Sometimes it feels like there aren't many people that are aware of that, and I guess that's why I wouldn't suggest that you're playing a character, but I think that's why I suggest that where we are is like a, you know, a forbidden part of the internet. It's where there are people trying to find the truth, talking about the truth, you know, and trying to wake people up.
Well, that's why you get painted the way that you get painted. You can see your mainstream media. They do what they're going to do because they're bought and paid for assets. Everybody knows this. If you have any questions about life, if you have any questions about what's going on out here in the world, and you don't follow the mainstream prescription for that, somebody's going to try to put you away. And you see what happens and I don't call them extreme cases anymore, but when somebody gets a little too big for their britches and people want to silence them or try to scare them or scare other people from imitating them, they'll Nigel Farage you, they'll Russell Brand you, they'll Joe Rogan you. You know, I'm not a big Joe Rogan fan, but you see what happens to Joe Rogan when he comes out and says ivermectin is good for me. It's working.
Yeah.
You know, they take his video and they try to make him look gaunt and gray and like he's on death's doorstep. And when he called it out, that woke a lot of people up. A whole bunch of people up. I got woke up a dozen years ago, 13, 14 years ago. I still didn't understand really what I was seeing. I just knew that what I was seeing wasn't matching what was going on out here. So you just start asking questions, and then your questions lead to discrepancies in the official narrative of what's being told to you. And when you find out that your ability to uncover truth is challenging what people are telling you, corporations, media, governments, you know, it leads you down a certain road. For me, the road has always been truth. I want to know the truth. I don't care how ugly it is. I want to know the truth.
Yep, that's right. And that's what we're trying to do here. For one, you know, we're always asking questions, and that always leads to more questions. And we're also trying to equip people with the information, you know, so that they can make educated decisions about their life. And that's, I think, part of what Honey Badger Radio, which we talked a little bit about before, I think that's what the big thing that we're trying to give is information. We're trying to give people information that the media, the mainstream, the academics, the entertainers, basically what is out there is not giving us. And so, like, this is why we do what we do. And I wanted to tell your audience, because I see a lot of people here that I've never seen before, so they're probably fans of yours. And so welcome to the show, guys. If you want to, please hit the like button so we can reach more people. But what would also be great is if you want to send us a message, but you don't want to give Google your money, which I can completely understand. So you don't want to send a super chat. Do it through we have a private way of sending messages that is actually, first of all, we get more of the money. So if you don't know, Google takes half of a super chat, sometimes more, and sometimes they take it all if they don't like what you said. So, they might let you make the super chat, but they'll take like half the money or more of the money. But we have our own messaging system, which is better. It will allow you to use more characters. We'll get most of the actual donation or the actual money that you send. So go to feedthebadger.com/just the tip to send us a tip, and whatever your thoughts are, and you can you have a lot of characters, so you can go crazy. And I'd appreciate it, because I really do want this to be a conversation, not just between myself and Mr. Hand here, but with you guys as well. I think that's what is really important. So anyway, so in all the time that you've been doing this, how do you think things have changed? Like, are you optimistic? I know it's a mess right now. This is not debatable. I know that things are awful and they're going to get worse, but do you think that there's, like, what are your feelings on how much the world has changed since you started going down this road?
Well, I always kind of approach everything from a point of optimism, even when it doesn't sound optimistic. The biggest change has been awareness. In my book, in my opinion, the biggest change out here in the last 10 years is awareness. Yeah. And specifically, I'll just pull this one out. Awareness that sugar and spice and everything nice is not what women are. That women are people. Women are people. They're just as corruptible, just as evil, just as nasty, just as mean-spirited as any man that you can point to. And that there is a cover that is run for females in particular, that men don't get the benefit of. Period. Plain and simple. I'm not on here to beat the shit out of women or bash anybody. It just is what it is. That's what it is. You find out that you get lied to about certain historical events. I won't go into that here. I have another channel for that. But those things cannot be questioned out loud. And I've always understood that in the Dark Ages, when they cut your tongue out, they weren't trying to punish you, they were trying to silence you. You see? And they do the same thing here. They take your digital tongue away from you. They cancel your channels. They make you persona non grata. They crush your bank accounts. This is what people are doing now. You are in digital warfare. You are in a new soft civil war. You are. Whether you want to admit it or see it, it doesn't make a difference. You're there.
Yep. We are
So
definitely,
awareness.
yeah, definitely. And I'm with you on that. I tend to be optimistic, even though I know that suffering is coming and it's inevitable.
Sure.
But I think that that's the only way people are, you know, like those of us who haven't woken up already will wake up when the suffering comes. So yeah, I'm with that 100%. And I have been very lucky to be able to do this for as long as I have, and it's only thanks to the support of my people. I noticed that you are, because I looked at your channels, I watched some videos, and I also looked at some other stuff. So like you're into, you know, cars, and you're also into cultural things. And that's not something that people typically, you know, share. Like usually they make that their only thing. So I am an illustrator and artist, and that's actually kind of how I got involved in this whole thing. So, yeah. So, like, what I guess I'm wondering about is if you feel the same way I do, in that I think that culture is extremely important. I think that it's how we've gotten to the mess that we have, is that we weren't keeping an eye on that, and it allowed it to, like, sort of, you know, degenerate to the point where it is now. Does that make sense?
Sure. Yeah, it makes perfect sense. If you go looking for the answers as far as where the culture started to unravel, you'll find that all of the things that the cultural, I don't want to say the cultural elite, but I'm just going to say that the cultural elite, the people that were steering culture in the early 19th century, 20th century, 20th century.
Yep.
And through the 20s, 30s, 40s, and 50s, those folks looked at things like cartoons, comic books, music, and discarded them. They didn't pay attention to those things. And wherever your communists and Marxists and far leftists get into, I'll say the same thing for people that are far righties. You know, it's never good to be way, way, way over here or way, way, way over here. You know, the middle is great, but right now the middle is just completely eroded.
Mm-hmm.
But these folks just totally missed the opportunity to control those spheres of culture. And wherever your subverters are going to get in, they're going to get in where they fit in, and they're going to take what they can get. And you see the way that people maneuver you through music now, the way that they maneuver you through all entertainment. Any form of entertainment now is completely corrupted.
Oh yeah.
You can see that with Disney burning to the ground. Right now, right in front of your eyes, they're self-immolating. So, you know, yeah, culture is enormously important. It's hugely important. You can look right behind me, right there.
I see
those two posters right there. You know what they're from.
I
right?
do. That's
okay.
I saw him because I had
That's
Eric July on my show about a month ago.
That's
and
right.
I recognize the other one. I can't quite make it out, but I know that's another indie. Or not, I guess you could say. Go ahead.
It's Isom and it's Yaira.
Yeah.
Isom
Okay.
and Yaira.
Yaira. Yeah.
So, I didn't expect the world to get set on fire with anything like that, and I don't think that it got set on fire. What it showed was that there was opportunity. You see, these people are trying to shove this shit down your throats, and everybody's gagging on it, and nobody's just going to sit back and say, hey, okay, this is the best that we can do. It's just not happening. You take the last, let's say 5 years of indie projects, comic and graphic novel projects, for example, they have put down $20 million worth of sales. The majority of that comes from 3 or 4 very big creators, and their stuff took off. The movement of people behind them to push for what they wanted took off with them. And you can see that right behind me. I don't see eye to eye with these folks on everything, but I support what they're doing, and that support's right there.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, if we got into like making sure that we were all like on the same page with every belief, we would never get anything done. It was never that way. It was all about like creating. And if the stories are well made, if there's something that is true about the human experience, then they will be successful. And like you said, it's corrupted. I've done a lot of art history research, and you are right about it starting in like the early 20th century. It was actually not in necessarily the books and stuff, but rather in the visual arts. That's where it really took root with the Dadaists and the existentialists.
Sure.
And then the definition of art itself changed. Like before, it was something that was beautiful. It was, a lot of the art was, it might have been religious art, or it might have been historical art. It might have been about, like a war or a famous person, like a general or a king, or it was like something out of the Bible or some other piece of work like mythology, etc. But now, the Dadaists said, well, no, if it's art shouldn't be beautiful, it should be meaningful. And so they shifted it to say it has to be political. When they say political, they mean their politics. They don't mean like something that is just sort of like generally political. Like you could do a painting of, I don't know, like the beaches of Normandy, and it would technically be political, but if it was beautiful, it wouldn't work for them. Or if it was a Norman Rockwell, where you have like Norman Rockwell is famous for these really like American style paintings, and they were comical and stuff. But what they did was they created a distinction between art and illustration. And that's when they threw comic artists and illustrators like Frank Frazetta, and books like Conan the Barbarian, and anything that was sort of like popular and masculine and archetypal. They treated it like it was less than art. And that's where the elitism comes in, and it goes into lots of other stuff. That's why we are at the point now where visual art, or like museum style art, is absolute trash, because it's already been run through. And so they moved on to the pop culture, and they've been running that ragged ever since. But people are figuring it out. I don't know. I'm hoping that'll change, only because I do believe that if we forget the stories of our history, the stories that define us, then we're going to lose our identity. It comes back to, the attack on language, for example. How what words don't mean anything anymore, or they make up new words. On this channel, we mostly talk about like things like feminism, because we know that there is a relationship between that and the way that men and women communicate to each other. I think that feminism has essentially taken female nature and ranked it up to 11 and radicalized it. So some people say feminism did this to women. I don't believe that. I think that women have a nature, and you can bring out the worst in them, and feminism is a good tool for it. And then men, like simps, they will follow, and they'll do whatever they want. They'll serve them, etc. Does that make sense?
Sure, yeah. Absolutely. When you're talking about people, hangers on and coattail riders and simps and cucks and things of that nature, these guys didn't start out this way. Mm-hmm. They didn't start out this way. They were made this way. They were made like this. It's like we constantly have this conversation about what's going on over in the black community, for example. Now, obviously, I'm not black, but you don't need to be black to see what's going on over in that particular community. And we have the same grievances, the same problems over here with whites, with Orientals,
sure,
with Chinese or Japanese. It's run roughshod over the world. And these folks, every single cultural malady that you can point the finger at was kicked into high gear about 1964 with the Great Societies program. Mm-hmm. Everything after that, it was just a matter of time.
Yep, absolutely. And
you go to these folks and you tell them, we're going to hand you a whole bunch of cash, at least enough to keep you in this place. We're going to give you some government cheese. You can have all the kids that you want. We'll pay for them too, but you can't have a man in the house. Mm-hmm. The black community was the Kendall bed.
Yeah,
that started that. They were used as the experiment for that, and it spread like wildfire to everybody else in the Western world.
Yep, I call them the canary in the coal mine.
Sure.
Yeah. So and I live in Roanoke, Virginia now, but I was born and raised and grew up in Chicago, Illinois, and the West Side. I was around Latinos and blacks.
West Side?
Yeah, West Side. Yeah, I'm Puerto Rican, so that was just where I was. I grew up there. I saw the Latin Kings and the Gangster Disciples and all of that stuff, and I didn't notice because I had my father with me. So like for my mom and my dad, they stayed together. And so I didn't really have those issues, but I did see it everywhere around me, that there were no fathers. And there were, you know, my best friends growing up as kids, they didn't know their dads. They had like an uncle that lived with them, or they were raised by their grandparents or aunts or whatever. And inevitably, most of them went on to, you know, join gangs, get addicted to drugs, whatever. Like they never left home, whatever it was. I didn't put that together till much later in life. And, but yeah, I mean, I'm just saying from personal experience, I saw it. I saw welfare queens. I saw women like that would have kids, and they would do the math like, oh, this is how much I'm going to get from the government if I have this many kids. These are going to be my tax returns, so I'm going to have these kids. Not because I want to raise a child that will hopefully one day become a great, you know, person, like a good man. No. It was like, this is what I'm going to get. And this is what we have incentivized. Now, of course, this stuff has been going on way before we were born. So I do, and we're sort of like, we were given shit that our parents were given and their parents were given. So this is at least a couple of generations, like you said, going back to the Great Society. And so I get people that call into my show, because I do call-in shows once a month. People call in, and sometimes they'll ask me, like, what are our goals? What are we gonna do? And I'm like, look, all I can do is inform people, and like you said, make people aware of what's happening. We are dealing with something that is multiple generations. It's not gonna be solved overnight. I'm not the president of the manosphere. I can't pass a law or something, you know. I'm not Anthony Johnson. All I can do is try to like prepare people. You know what I'm saying? So
yeah, well, you know, your president of the manosphere crawfished on everything that he said for years and years and years, and then went out and married a barracks bunny.
I know.
So, you know.
I do, and that's just it. Like, you know, this is not. It's not easy to live this life, and especially if you are prone to, I don't know, sort of giving in to the status quo. You have to just constantly be in a state of rebellion, and that means you have to be brave. And I mean, I didn't say that to shit on him. I hope that he figures his shit out, but I'm basically saying this is not a problem that you can solve, you know, by just writing another book, declaring yourself CEO of masculinity or whatever. It's, you just gotta do your best, and you gotta help other guys. That's what it is to me. It's about building community and camaraderie with men. That's what has to happen, in my opinion. I don't know what you think.
Well, I agree with you 100%. Look, you can go back easily 2 centuries and see that wherever there is a collection of men, where men are getting together on their own time and they're talking and they're sharing stories, there has been an effort, an astonishing effort to break that up, to make it to where it doesn't happen. The internet really became, it's a blessing and it's a curse all at the same time. It became a refuge for men that really kind of thought that they were going insane. I can't tell you how many men I've run across that said that they thought they were the only one that thought this. They thought that they were going crazy, and they were looking for answers, and they found their answers. Now, you can find rabbit holes here in the so-called manosphere that can lead you down the wrong path. You know, if you're especially susceptible to suggestion, you can get lost really, really quick. Here at MGTOW, with monks in MGTOW and what I call true red pillars, people that are all about truth, pulling the veil back. That's what red pill was and is. When people colloquial adopt that term and call themselves red pillars, they're just trying to rebrand and rebadge.
Or they just want to be on the bandwagon, like they just want to be a part of it.
Right. It sounds good. It sounds cool. People hate them, so they want to be hated a little bit, so they jump on board. That's not a reason to do anything. We talk to our guys, and I stress bedrock foundational elements for these fellas. It's morals, ethics, values, and principles. Learn how to control your biology. You don't have to put your dick in everything that moves. As a matter of fact, for me, as a matter of policy, don't touch anybody. You don't know what's going on out here with these people. Men, I think, really have been behind the 8 ball and behind the curve culturally for decades. They just didn't get it. You have this recent outbreak here with Trevor Bauer, the former Dodgers pitcher.
Yep.
Are you're familiar?
Oh
with it,
yeah.
yes?
Oh yeah. I'm on top of that. Yeah.
Trevor Bauer was about to get a $200 million contract extension. He already had $51 million in the bag, and this girl comes along and she decides that she's going to juke him, and she does it. She's found not guilty, but he won the only court proceeding. You know, she alleged all of this horrifying shit, and she's filming herself laying there with him smiling, having a great fucking time the day after, the morning after. And everybody pretty much has seen that. But does Trevor Bauer get his years back? Does he get his $200 million contract extension? No, she derailed his life. And there's no punishment for women that are doing this. Me Too has always been a power play.
Always.
Plain and simple.
Yep.
Has it done some good? I don't know. Believe her.
I don't care.
Believe all women. Hold up.
It's going to sound radical, but I don't care if it did any good, because it was the wrong way.
I don't care.
It was the wrong way to go about it, full stop, from the beginning.
Agreed.
In my opinion, you know, like what I've talked about this, because a lot of people, especially the conservatives, they give too much credit to Me Too. Way too much credit. They'll be like, oh, you know, Harvey Weinstein was kind of a piece of shit. I'm like, yeah, but those women that slept with him chose to do it. So I have no sympathy. Like, you knew what the stakes were. You knew what was on the table. He put it out there. You said yes. You don't get to complain later. I don't care. Like, I'm sorry. But because that's how you get to this point where women can just weaponize, or anyone can weaponize a woman's victimhood to destroy someone. It doesn't matter if they get accused. I mean, like, if they end up going to jail or anything like that, it doesn't matter. Their life is over. The accusation. Look at Russell Brand. And I know that you did a video on that. Look at there are some people that others have said, oh, these people are hard to defend, but I don't have a problem defending Bill Cosby. I don't have a problem defending Harvey Weinstein. I don't have a problem defending the guy from that 70s show.
Danny Masterson.
Danny Masterson. Because I think,
when did that happen? It happened 20 fucking years ago.
Exactly.
Right? 20 years ago. You have no evidence. You just have somebody saying,
yeah.
And they do that on command.
Yes, they do.
They do that on command. If they want to get their way, that's how you know, when you step back from these cases and you take a look, why is it always going this way? That's how you know that you live in a gynocentric society. That's how you know that, because everything is slanted out of your favor into theirs, and we're supposed to have these equal scales of justice. It's just a farce. It's not true.
Yep. And this is like, no matter what the evidence is, or no evidence at all. You don't have to have any now. I mean, like, and this is the thing too, very important. We went through the whole Johnny Depp Amber Heard thing, which is another really big case, right? Sure. And at the end of it, he won. But we were like, look at how much trouble this was. This guy's career is fucked regardless. It doesn't, like, he'll bounce back at some point or whatever. But then think about this too. When we talk about these names that I just dropped, these are all millionaire men. These are the top 1% of the top 1% of men.
Right.
They have the resources, they have the support to deal with this. What about a regular guy? What about a regular guy?
There is no what about a regular guy. They're doing it to fucking third grade kids.
Yeah.
You know, did you see that thing a couple of years ago where 5 little girls ganged up on this one boy and they said that he sexually assaulted her?
I think so. I think I remember that.
Them?
Yeah.
This kid, this child is being handcuffed in a classroom and led out to a squad car because little girls heard their parents talking about this shit. And because their parents have a particular ideological bent, the kids are just like, well, maybe. It sounds very familiar, right? With the explosion of Transformers out here on the scene. You know, and who is that directed at? Yes, they come from every corner and every walk of life, but it's 95% little white boys.
Oh, no, for sure. It's definitely. I mean, it's almost always men, but it's very frequently white men. And that's because
to escape the pressures that come with being a traditional minded European white person today, these people will turn themselves into girls to get away from it.
Yep. And yeah, I mean, we talked a little bit about the trans max before the show. White boy, as well. And I think that it's because, I mean, I don't know if you saw the suicide rates. We talked about this not that long ago.
Oh yeah, they're astronomical.
Yeah, but like the overwhelming majority of suicides are white men.
Sure.
So, and it's like, well, why is this happening? Well, what does our culture say about white men?
We didn't do nothing. We didn't build nothing. We have no culture. We have no heritage. You had kids? Nope. You can't have no kids.
Yep, exactly.
So yeah, you're a disposable item. I coined a phrase not too long ago, futility of the utility.
Yeah.
And that's what we are they're trying to make us into. They just want you to accept your role as a pack mule, take your lumps, and go die quietly. That's what
right.
they want. I refuse to go down that road. I'm not doing that. So no.
Okay, so I got a couple super chows. Those are what we call our super chats.
Super chows. Cool.
Yes, they are super chows. And I'm gonna read them out. Some of them are, they can get kind of lengthy, but you can give your thoughts on them after I read them. So I got one from Richard Bier for $5. Thank you, Richard. And he says, I think that the version, this is from yesterday, but I'm sure that it's applicable. I think the version of the collapse that the elites are hoping for, or possibility trying to engineer, is that the elites will still have the technological comfort of modern life while everyone else lives in pre-industrial conditions. Consider how in the early days that automobiles were a luxury status symbol, as they were extremely difficult to produce and very expensive to obtain. You wouldn't even consider getting one unless you were of serious means. Sure. Mobile phones used to be kind of the same way, as the service used to be 95 cents a minute, and if you roamed outside your home area, it'd be like an additional $1.95 per minute. They were also very expensive. And way back when having a home with electrical services was also a big ticket item. And these things, by being made available at lower cost to more people, ruined them as status symbols for narcissistic elitists to flaunt their better than ordinary people status. I wouldn't be surprised if many will be living Amish lifestyles while a small group has all the modern conveniences at some point in the future.
Well, the Amish don't appear to be unhappy, do they?
No, they don't. No, I was going to say, I always mention them too, actually.
They don't.
The Amish and the Mormons seem to be okay. So
when folks look at the Amish, and I'm not saying that your super chatter here or your super chower here is doing this, but when they look at the Amish or they look at the Mormon or people that live a simpler life, they kind of look down on them. You know, and that's just, their minds aren't cluttered with materialism. You see, look, in my opinion, it's okay to want things. It's okay to want to do things, but how much is enough? You know, we've all been turned into consumers to keep this engine chugging along and churning along. And your life, in my opinion, was never meant to be one of a consumer. We really don't have a clear understanding of how far off the tracks we are, because this has been a thing for 200 years. You know, it's been here much longer than that, but industrialization exploded it into the stratosphere. You know, you could make anything that you want, do anything that you want. When you were talking about cars and things like that, cell phones being a novelty, electricity was a novelty.
Running water was a novelty.
Running water, indoor toilets were a novelty. You go back in time and you look at articles that address this stuff, which I do frequently. People that had this stuff were kind of looked upon as weirdos. And it just, somebody that the public liked, endorsed it, it caught fire. Here we are. And you know, I don't take any of that for granted. I often repeat, you know, I say, look, I mean, I do think that materialism and consumerism can be consumerism is definitely a problem, but that doesn't mean that it's not good to have things. Like, I'm here on my computer talking to you, and I have my hobbies and all that, and those, you know, are material goods, but I'm not defined by those things. It's just things I like to do. And for me, it's actually, at the end of the day, in my opinion, it all comes down to all the things that I like to hold on to are things that make my experiences with other human beings better. So it's about community still, right?
Since moving out to Roanoke, Virginia, I've made a few friends. It's not like Chicago. Chicago is so communist. Like, I can't be friends with anybody. Like, there was a Maoist bookstore on the corner, right? And I thought that was normal. And now that I'm out here, it's a lot more like balanced, you know? So there's like a better mix of people that are not, you know, that are just sort of normal, right? I mean, they're just kind of cool.
I think I've been all over this country, and I've had the benefit of being able to speak to people in every pocket that I've settled in for a day or spent the night in.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm always kind of accessible to talk to folks. And I think the outliers just happen to be the population centers.
Mm-hmm.
You know, where
right.
80
the cities.
to 90% of your people are. Those are the outliers. Those are the culturally corrupt centers.
Mm-hmm.
And those people in there, I have nothing but sympathy for them. But my sympathy only goes so far. I can't sympathy you out of your position. You have to recognize that you're in a bad position.
Mm-hmm.
All of the people, for the most part, all of the people that I've met on the interior of the country, anywhere that's not in giant cities, like the East Coast, the West Coast, parts of Texas, especially Austin, it's very, very blue in Austin. All of them California refugees go to Austin. But most of these folks are decent, salt of the earth people. Some of them are different. They have different dialects. They have different sensibilities for living. But that's what I consider to be normal. Maoist bookstores in a cornfield in Iowa, you will never see.
Right. No, of course
not. You will never see it. You will see radicals everywhere. There are radicals everywhere. And the only reason that that's been allowed to perpetuate itself is because your politicians, your gatekeepers for this country, they're bought and paid for decades and decades and decades. They don't give a shit about anything except accumulation and power.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
That's what they care about.
Yep. And yeah, I agree with that. I think that generally when it comes to materialism, I think that men, from my experience and what I've looked at, seem to be more comfortable with less. You know, that there's this meme that women sometimes, you know the one, right? Like, guys actually think they can live like this, and it's like literally like, you know, one room, a chair, a TV,
and a game controller.
Yeah, exactly. I think that if you
guys can live like that.
Yes, and it's absolutely like and I think that so when we think about materialism, it is more of a feminine thing. Not that men can't be victim to it. I know guys that are culture junkies. Sure. You know, but I think that it is definitely more of a female problem. Okay, so next super child. Thank you, Richard. Questions for Hammer. This is from an anonymous person for $5. Number one, is he against MGM, which is male genital mutilation? I ask because I've come across many MGTOW that are all the struggles men face, but refuse to accept male genital mutilation as a men's rights issue. I understand that many MGTOW don't want to fight like MRAs and just want to sit back and watch the ship sink, but I believe that MGM is an issue that we can actually solve. And there's another question, but I'll let you answer that one first, I guess.
All right. Yes, as a matter of fact, I have a pretty serious problem with that. But next time, just call it circumcision, because that's what all of your communists call it.
I think he wants to call it male genital mutilation. It's sort of like, you know.
Yes, of course I do.
Yeah. It's a language thing, but of course I'm against it too.
I have an enormous problem with it. I have a huge problem with it. One of the most serious regrets of my life was having my son go through that. You know, because we were just told that it was a normal thing, that's what you're supposed to do. And then once you start digging and you start looking at the origins of this, I sat here reading this for a couple of days and I cried real tears because I realized that I had made a horrific mistake, and that's not something you can't take it back.
Yeah, no, you know what though? Mad props to you for doing that, because most people can't do that. Like if they learn that something they did in their past that they thought was right at the time, or they thought had no, you know, maybe no long-term effects, if they're faced with the possibility that they were wrong, they will become very angry, hostile, or even violent. I mean, I've seen videos of intactivists approaching men on the street, you know, passing out their literature, and there are guys who have threatened to kick their ass because they circumcised their own son, and they don't want to face the fact that that was wrong because you can't take it back. But this is across the board with lots of things, right? I'm sorry.
You
go
have
ahead.
to make them understand why it's incorrect.
Yeah.
And I don't know where you want to go with this on this channel, so maybe
we can
should
go,
just leave that.
I mean,
Okay.
Yeah. We can go wherever.
Circumcision is a wholly owned Jewish creation.
Mm-hmm. I know.
It was made for Europeans specifically.
Yes.
And that's most of your Jewish elite hate and despise Europeans and the way that Europeans have a relationship with God. Mm-hmm. Now we could talk about this for the next 10 hours and cover the same ground twice.
All I'll say is I'm with you because I've seen it whenever there's a fight to get it, like something done about it. That right.
Who's the first one raising their hands objecting to it?
No, absolutely, absolutely.
It's not Americans. It's not Europeans.
And the thing is,
it's Jewish elite.
You're right, and the thing is too, and I've said this many times: circumcision is not Christian. For some reason we're doing it, but it's not. It doesn't come from Christianity. So before people blame Christianity for this, it's not that. It was something that was imposed on us. Maybe it came from people like Kellogg. I think he was one of the big ones, right?
Yes, he was.
And I think it's basically it's child abuse. It's straight up infant abuse, like newborn babies getting their pieces of their dick cut off is basically like rape, and we shouldn't be doing it. It traumatizes them. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Look, I agree with you 100%. Don't be sorry. If you look at the origins of the people that started this here in this country, and you go back and you can easily find their annotations and their notes on this subject. It's them in their own words saying that they want to deprive Europeans of the ability to mate, the ability to have sexual pleasure. The cover story for it is, that somebody could get an infection. We do it because of X, Y, and Z. The doctors, the nurses, the people that are out there in all of these hospitals and these birthing chambers that are doing this shit right now are doing what they think is correct. They have been lied to.
Yes, they have. But
have been lied to.
But they should have the they should find out for themselves. I mean, I guarantee they're lied to.
I agree.
But at the same time, you should be, because my mother didn't have that done to us, to my brothers and I. For whatever reason. I asked her about it. She was like, well, I didn't really think it was necessary. And I was like, well, that's good, because it's not.
It's not. I'll tell you a little story here.
Okay.
It was done to me, but not done to my younger brother. So we figured that out, and we kind of asked the mom here, right over here. And she said she thought that it was the right thing to do in the beginning, initially. And then when my brother came along, she said she just didn't feel that was necessary anymore, and that she regretted having it done with me. But of course, we didn't figure this out until years down the road after I had kids, and I had made the same mistake with my son. And your ignorance works to their benefit. And so many millions and millions and millions of people do not realize that they are completely ignorant when it comes to these things. They take the messaging that is given to them when your television box right up here tells you who to love, who to hate, who to vote for, how to feel about this, how to feel about that, how to give your shit away, how to accumulate more shit. Why aren't you working harder? All of this is going to change. And I don't think that we have a very big shot of changing it peacefully. I don't want war. I don't want chaos. I don't want a civil conflict, but it's coming.
Well, yeah, because you can see it. It's already starting to happen. Anybody who challenges these people, right? They get thrown in solitary confinement. They get arrested. Their houses raided. You heard about what happened to Lawrence Fox?
I've seen bits and pieces, but I don't think I know who Lawrence Fox is.
He was he's British, so I don't know a lot. Because we gave them that L in 1776, but anyway, I love the Brits. So he was on a show, and he basically criticized a woman named Ava who was making light of male suicide, and he said, "Well, who would want to shag, somebody like that?" And then they got him fired from his job, and then after that, and I think that the cops came to his house and they were looking because he supposedly was like, you know, they suspected him of conspiring to destroy government equipment because they have all these surveillance cameras in London, and he was against that. But it's all pretense. They just wanted him out, right? They arrested him and everything. This is what they do, and like you can find shit like this all over the Western world, if not all over the world. You know, so
that's your slap, and we're going to let it go at that.
Yeah.
But if you keep fucking around, we're going to Donald Trump you.
Yeah, exactly. And you know, you have to. That's what I'm saying. You have to look at these things. Like it's there's a clear pattern of behavior. But anyway, number 2. This is the same anonymous person. What was life like during your teens and throughout the 30s? What changed, and when did you notice it?
Throughout my 30s or your 30s? I ain't that old.
His 30s. It says his 30s.
Okay. I'm going to be very blunt and very honest. I could talk about the teenage stuff forever because there was a lot going on there. I was a fucking brick probably until I was about 35, 36. And I didn't really start waking up until I was approaching 40. You know, I didn't challenge anything when it come to that. Now, obviously, if somebody walks up on me in the street and starts to throw down, that's a different thing. I'll protect myself. I'll fight for myself. But as far as challenging what's being said out here, I didn't even realize that was a possibility. You know, I didn't know that. Like a lot of people didn't know that. It's kind of difficult to describe. You know, I am not the same person now that I was then. The incorporation of new data, effort to find the new data, to understand, to uncover your history that's been covered up. That expands your horizons tremendously. I'm a much, much different person. You know, you retain some of those attributes, you retain some of those things that you had when you were 36, but I'm an incredibly different person. So to say that I hadn't changed any at all would be a lie, an outright lie. The younger years, the teen years, those were different because my brother and I went through a tremendous amount of physical and sexual abuse when we were young, very, very young. And I can't tell you why we didn't go a different route, why we didn't become criminals, why we didn't follow that prescription that was given to us. I can't tell you that. I knew that it was disgusting and sickening when it was happening. But it took years to fight through that nest that's sitting in your head, to untangle that ball of twine and to get it all dealt with and put in a position where you can try to live life. You have one life, you have your life. And I'm not saying that if you're in a similar position now or were in a similar position, that it's invalid, but you've got to deal with what's going on here before you can make moves to make your life your own.
Yeah,
that's about it.
No, that's good. So I always ask this of people. I would normally wait for the end, but this seems like it's on topic.
Sure.
In what ways do you think, since going MGTOW, going monk or whatever, since when that started to now, how much do you think you have changed?
I can't.
Or like
tell you.
In what is like one way that you know that you've changed? Like it's pretty significant, if anything.
One way that I know for a fact that I have changed is, well, it's a multi-pronged way, but I'll give you the easy one. I have zero trust in the system that I'm now aware of. I understand that no matter how nice, kind, and decent a female can be or would be, I have one sitting down the road that would like to go on a date, and I keep refusing it and saying, no, I don't date. It's a waste of my time. I don't have anything to offer anybody. I try to get rid of it as fast as I can. And I would never do it again. Because you don't know what that girl is going to end up being. You don't know what is going to push her over the edge. You don't know if she has issues that she's carrying forward with her to try to harm you or to hurt you. You know, taking my own advice, I have developed my morals, ethics, values, and principles. I don't fuck around out here anymore. I haven't had a sexual relationship with somebody for 14 years. You know, you have detractors that'll tell you straight up, well, nobody wants that guy. That's why he's not fucking. Well, that's not true, man. You can find anybody on the corner to go bang anytime that you want to. Anybody. Any guy can go get himself a dime piece with $50. That's it. Pussy is worthless. You look at OnlyFans, they're selling pussy for $5.99. You know what I'm saying? All over, excuse me, all over the place. I guess the next biggest one would be self-awareness. When MGTOW was becoming a thing, self-awareness was being pushed hard. And I agree with self-awareness being pushed hard. But I also agree with the idea of discussing what's causing the problems. You get a bunch of guys that pop in here, they're brand new to all this. Why are you always talking about women, Hammer? Why are you always talking about circumcision, Hammer? Why are you always talking about marital laws, divorce court, child extortion courts? It's not support for the kids, it's extortion, is what it is. And they just have the legal gavel on their side. And if you don't do it, they will try to kill you.
Yes.
There's no reverse of that scenario where I can get on the phone and say, yeah, I need you to send a murder squad to my door to maybe potentially kill my wife because, you know, I don't like her today. There's no situation out there that works like that. You have to incorporate new data. You have to incorporate new things into the way that you approach life. Monk, for me, has been a godsend. And I have to say that straight out. It's been a godsend. It's allowed me to concentrate 100% on myself, my son, and that's it. I don't have to worry about the other shit. That's it.
All right. Yeah, that's all true. I think that I've become more optimistic. And the reason is because, you know, they say ignorance is bliss, and I disagree 100%. Sure. I think that it's knowing is way better because then you're not surprised.
But you can understand why people don't want to know because then once they're aware, they have to take action.
Yes, that's right. Or at least, protect themselves. But the truth is, it's knowing is much better than not knowing. Yes, sir. Number 2, this is the same Super Chow. What was, I already asked you that one. I got another Super Chow from Winter for $10. And he say, great that you finally got Hammerhand on. Well, thank you, Winter, and appreciate the contribution, and I'm glad to have him on. And then I got another Super Chow for $5, and they say, Brian, I'd like for you to expand more on your comments on art. I've been noticing more and more AI-generated art being used for articles and videos. While a lot of it looks, air quotes, good, but I feel like it's missing something. I can't put my finger on it, but it feels like it's soulless. I don't like it. It's starting to annoy me.
That's a good one.
Do you want to, I could speak to it, but do you want to say something about it?
No, by all means. I'd like to hear what you got to say.
I think that AI art is not creating anything. It's just regurgitating what's already out there. And it's basically it takes it at the smallest level and it reproduces it. So when you look at it and you feel a little uneasy, you're right, it is soulless because, and when I say this, okay, let me back up a little bit, all right? Because I did talk a little bit about art history. So we had the Baroque period and the Renaissance and all of those beautiful works that still today are considered masterworks. You know, even the Mona Lisa, which, you know, it's a little overrated. Like people think it's like, because it's kind of small and all that. But the point is, though, what was attempted, what was considered, you know, meaningful. You have the Sistine Chapel, you got like these sculptures and stuff from ancient Greece and Rome, etc. These were all beautiful because they were representations of reality. Now, do I mean they're factually true? No, I mean they're reality. That's different. So, you know, if you look at a painting of Perseus slaying the Medusa, it resonates because there is a truth there. There is a truth that's being spoken. So truths are not facts. Truths are more important, in fact, because they're universal. Think about the oldest stories, like Beowulf. You know, you're familiar with Beowulf, I assume, yes. Right? So yes. Beowulf is an example of one of the oldest epic poems ever that we know of, and it as a story is timeless. It was reproduced in the 1980s movie Predator. So with Arnold Schwarzenegger and what is it, Jesse Ventura and stuff. That's Beowulf. Yeah. It's the same story. And it was also made again later with the film 13th Warrior, which what were you gonna say?
What is it though? I mean,
I don't know about the films. Ultimately, what it boils down to,
it's archetypal.
It's archetypal, right? It's man versus nature. That's what Beowulf is, right? And that you could even look at Adam and Eve. So when Adam was before the Eve and the serpent and all that shit, Adam is in the garden and God is talking to him. They're walking in the garden together, and Adam is given the task. He says, God says to him, I want you to build my garden out into the world. This is man. And when I say man, I mean men, not mankind. I mean men, like males, like us. We're supposed to go out into the world, into the perimeter, into the unknown, and we're supposed to build out there, right? So when people talk about, you mentioned gynocentrism. Gynocentrism is men on the perimeter, making the world safe for women, which is in the hearth or the center. That is like what we have done throughout time immemorial, and this is reproduced in stories as symbolic. So man versus nature is man on the perimeter. It's Gilgamesh and I forget the friend he makes, the guy's name, but it's Gilgamesh, it's Beowulf, it's Jesus Christ, it's Adam. It's repeated over and over, right? And so this is what art always was, and this is what men are drawn to. Like, men are always looking. It's not like, what modern conservatives, which to me are just second wave feminists, what modern conservatives will say is that men are supposed to find a woman, settle down, and get married. That's not the end of the adventure. Men are always looking for a calling. They're looking for an adventure. They're looking for something to do that is great. They want to do something great. Now, being a father is that adventure for most men. But some men, and I think this is where the MGTOW kind of fit in, their calling is not there. It's something outside. It's the Isaac Newtons. Like Isaac Newton he never married, right? He was a scientist, but he did great things. Some men that's what their calling is. And so when I talk about art, it's got to tell the truth about us. And it also should tell the truth about women, which has a different, thing. It's like a different story. As an example, Joseph Campbell, he wrote books about archetypal masculinity. Yes, and it was his work that the films like Star Wars are based on. And when I talk about Star Wars, I mean just the first movie, just A New Hope, just the first one. On its own, it's enough, right? The two sequels are just extensions on the same cycle, so you don't really need them. But if you want to just look at it, it's The Hobbit. It's the same thing. It's a boy becoming a man. That's the story, right? A boy becomes a man, and he comes back and he's changed. And that's the call to adventure. This is what men are looking for. Why then? This is an easy question to answer when you say, when people say, why are so many men, addicted to video games or some other kind of escapism? It's because they're looking for that, and we have denied them every possible outlet. From the moment they were born, we have been castrating them, literally castrating them in some cases. But then, like, if a boy survives, like if for whatever reason he isn't circumcised, he isn't mutilated, then he'll grow up in a feminine environment. There's a good chance he won't know his father. There's a good chance he's going to go to schools, which are public schools run by women, feminist women on top of that. So it's like double plus bad. Then maybe they'll become interested in girls if they don't end up being pushed to transition and cut their penis off or take hormones or whatever. If they get through that, they might go to college where they'll learn that they are 33% likely to try to rape someone because that's what they're told in school now. Yeah. And then if
that's a false statistic, by the way.
Yeah, of course it is. It's obviously, yes, we've gone through that many times, but it doesn't stop them from repeating the lie. So if a man gets through all of that and gets out into the real world and gets a job, he's going to be in debt if he goes to college because he's going to get a degree that's useless. If he gets out into the real world, then he's gonna get maybe he'll get lucky and get a decent job, and he won't find anyone because women are shooting for the moon. So they're gonna want 6 figures, 6 feet tall, 6-inch penis, 6-pack, whatever. So it's like we have essentially hobbled them from the very beginning. It's like in Misery when what's her name hits the guy's like ankles with the hammer so he can't walk away. It's from the very beginning. So it's like, okay, obviously all of that's got to be undone. Even if like the only solution, like for some men they're like too far along on this road, but they have to know what they're up against, and that's what's the problem is. And they also should, again, like I said, they need to find a calling, and I think that's what I think. Yeah, go ahead.
I think that they have found a calling themselves.
Yeah.
They have. And I think that not only did feminism kind of butt fuck women in general, pardon my language there, but it turned them into soulless taxpayers. It ignores their biology. It obliterates their fertile years. It destroys their ability to make a family and to pair bond with a guy. It gave men an out. You cannot put this back in the box. Mm-hmm. There's no fixing this. Mm-hmm. There's no fixing this. Every Western country and Western adjacent country on this planet is upside down population-wise. Marriage rates are in the tank. They're only getting worse. The relationship between men and women is in the toilet. Mm-hmm. It's in the toilet, bro. It's on autopilot, but it's still going down. Mm-hmm. And it's not going to be fixed because there's this basic spastic nervous confusion about what is correct when it comes to approaching another human being, because you're interested in kissing them or touching them or mating with them or asking, maybe you'd like to have a family. You can ask somebody now to go on a date or just brush their hand, and this in some circles that are larger circles of people is considered to be sexual assault. I'm just going to bow out. Yeah. I'm just going to bow out. I fuck any of that. I'm not messing with any of that. Mm-hmm. And the way that people respond to that is to try to shame you or pigeonhole you in somewhere or bludgeon you over the head with your own manliness. Mm-hmm. That stuff matters if I respect you and your opinion. I don't respect these people or their opinions because I understand how their opinions originated, where they come from, why they have those opinions. So no, I'm going to be living my life. Mm-hmm. I would love to have a decent, loyal, honest woman that could not use the trip hammer and the gears of the state to destroy me. I'd love that. Mm-hmm. But where is she?
Well, it almost doesn't matter though, because like getting involved with a woman is like coming into I don't know, you come to the dinner table and the only thing on the table is a gun and you can't use it.
Well, I've said it many times, that every woman is handed one of these, mm-hmm. and at her discretion, she can use the state to destroy you. Mm-hmm. You see, you see all of these things that were originally incentivized by feminists, by rad femmes, like lifetime alimony. It's gone. It won't be long until alimony as a concept is gone. The overturning of Roe v. Wade, that's gone. Now it reverts back to the state control. And there's a whole bunch of states that are just saying, fuck it, we're not doing it no more. Eventually, no-fault divorce will be on the table and it's going to be gone. Mm-hmm. It's going to be gone. That's because your politicians on some level, the people that work with your politicians, are seeing what's going on out here. There's not enough meat for the fucking grinder, for the machine now. These corporations are starving for workers. Why do you think 1 million people come over our southern border every year? Mm-hmm. It's not because we don't want to work. It's because you ain't got enough people now. Yeah. And if you're talking about places like South Korea and Japan, they're never going to be the same.
Yeah, those replacement rates of the people coming through the border are also low, though. So the problem is men and women just aren't forming families like they used to.
Well, they're not bringing families across the border.
No.
They're bringing young, strong, fighting-aged men across the border. And at the same time, over the last 25 years, they have been actively encouraging miscegenation between races. So what do you think is going to happen with that?
Yeah, I don't know. I get
They're
it.
much more receptive to it than anybody else. Anybody.
So Anonymous, about the art thing, this could take a lot longer, but I can go into all of the art movements. So I'll be brief, okay? I'll try to. So like around the turn of the century, post-industrial revolution, maybe before World War One, you had like the spread of this enlightenment. So this is a product of the Enlightenment, just like things like eugenics and communism and stuff. And what it was people in the art world, gallery owners, museum curators, and various others, they wanted to redefine art because now we were printing things. And so this meant that art was, to them, it was losing its elite status, which is sort of like referring to what Richard Bier was saying. Before, you know, if you were, you could have like a really nice painting if you were an aristocrat, a merchant that was doing really well, or, you know, you were a royalty, or you ran a church, right? Those were the places where you would find the beautiful art. Then when we had the printing press, you can get it basically anywhere. I mean, before that, the Impressionists, guys like Van Gogh and others, they were making art of everyday life, which of course it was not recognized in their lifetime. Van Gogh was not famous when he died. It was way after that people were like, oh, look at all this great work, right? So what happened, going back to the early 1900s, when World War I was coming around, you had all this post-Enlightenment shit going on, and then you had the people in the art world saying, we got to redefine what art is. So to do that, they had to deconstruct it completely. And so you had the Dadaist movement and the existential movements, and they were trying to deconstruct art. And I know you guys have heard deconstruct, right? Like that's been a popular thing that's been thrown around recently with things like film. But I mean, it was going on in the visual arts way before. And so you had this kind of this intention to make art ugly and political. So it had to say something about a specific strife, like, you know, the communist revolution, or something that's kind of anti-beauty, because in their own way they felt that if something is beautiful, then it's closer to God. And I know that some of you guys might not like me saying that, but I think that it's important to know that this is a rebellion against the beautiful itself. And back then, since most people were religious, the idea was to move away from that. It had to be the opposite of everything, because subversion is all about reversing things. Go ahead.
Think about what you just said there. That has a huge application when you start talking about feminists in particular. You don't see beautiful feminists. You just don't. You don't. They are ugly as sin. And I think ugly on the outside can be modified if you're beautiful on the inside. I have seen it firsthand. Now, some folks may not agree with that. They may not agree with me on that. They say, if she don't please me with the eyes, I don't care about her personality. I get it. It's all good. But I don't view things that way. These bitches are ugly as sin on the inside, and their jealousy enrages them. And why don't I get the attention that those girls over there get? And that's where a lot of it comes from, man.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And it's and that is, again, it's a resentment that came out of those early art movements, because you had people that, let's face it, they were lazy and they weren't talented. And they hated the fact that there were other people that were better than them. And so they said, well, look, if we rewrite the rules of what is attractive, then I'm going to be the one that's good and the other person's going to suck. So they created a new kind of art, and they redefined what art was, and then any art that was good, they gave it a new name. They called it illustration. And so you had people like Frank Frazetta and various, like you mentioned, comic artists that were very talented, or folks like Norman Rockwell, who I mentioned, did those really amazing paintings. Those were all now illustrators, because they were just representing reality. And we as artists, we're smarter than that. We're galaxy brain folks that makes things that's meaningful. So Picasso, for example, he started off doing work that looked real, but then he changed because he saw that, oh, this is where the wind is blowing. I want to be rich. I'm going to make this, ugly ass art. And so he did. And when it really, this is the last thing I'll say about this, and then I'll let you, we'll go on from here.
Sure.
The major turning point was Marcel Duchamp. So Marcel Duchamp was an artist that did sculptures and paintings that were, for the most part, like naturalistic. He was attempting to reproduce something real. He wanted to make things that people wanted to buy and hang on their wall. And then one day in a gallery, he showed up and he took a urinal and painted some letters on it and put it in the corner as an exhibit. And everybody looked at it and they were like, because this is the thing about artists now. If you want to get rich as an artist, just like make up some shit, okay? Seriously. Like I saw a thing in the Chicago, because when I lived in Chicago, I used to go to the Art Institute and look at the stuff. And there was a modern wing they added, which is all garbage. And in the modern wing, somebody had literally a pile of hard, like rock candy, a pile of candy. And I was like, is this an exhibit? They were like, yes, this is. And then they told me the story of how, there was this, it was a gay man and his partner had AIDS and his partner was dying. And what you're encouraged to do is take a piece of candy, and then like after a while the candy will disappear just like his body did. Like it, and this is, I'm not lying. This is a real thing. And I was like, what happens when they run out of candy? And then, they replenish it. I was like, well, then he doesn't die. Like, you're not even making the point well. But it's no, and I'm like, no, who wants to look at this though? Like, why wouldn't, like, I mean, you can't see it because it's over here, but I have some posters that I really dig because they're nice to look at. Like, well, that's what people, like what you have back there. It's supposed to be nice to look at. It's supposed to be pleasing to the eye, but not like where. I mean, do I really need to? Do I need a piece of modern art where somebody comes in and they're like, "What's with that dog turd in the corner?" And I got to tell them a story. Well, here's what it means. I mean, I knew this teacher.
It's the battle of life.
Yeah, exactly. This is
feeling claustrophobic and enclosed when you're being worked through the.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Like I had an art teacher who's the only one that I thought was somewhat based. Okay, he hated modern art, hated it. And I remember he told us a story once that he had, because he was really great. He'd do these like gigantic murals with like figures. He would paint people on the street, like homeless men and stuff, but it was all very like real. I could tell that he was kind of interested in the male experience because there was a lot of his work was like that. And he said that he had a buyer come to his studio one day. And the buyer is walking around and he's looking at all the paintings and he's trying to figure out what he wants. And then he goes to the slop sink. So the slop sink is where he like washes all of his brushes off and cleans off all of his tools. So it's like this sink, and it's like the kind of sink you might find in a basement, right? It's like a plastic tub with like the metal pipes, and it's covered in paint, just splattered all over it. And he's like, how much for that? And the guy was like, that's my sink. I didn't make that. This is where we are. This is what happened to art. So what I'm saying is that everything that's beautiful is meant to be seen as ugly by these people, and they present the ugly as beautiful. That's why if you are someone who's maybe you weren't interested in visual arts like I was when I was, well, I still am. Maybe you weren't interested in those things, but maybe you saw it in something else. Maybe you've been playing, I don't know, video games that look really ugly to you, or they have ugly stories, or the comics have gotten ugly, which they totally have, or the shows, because it's not about. They're not adding anything. They just vandalize everything. They just vandalize it. And so like this is, and the purpose is to essentially burn it all down so they can build something new. They don't know what that new thing is, but they know they hate what's there. And this is, I mean, I don't know if that's good enough for you. I can go into it more, but look up Marcel Duchamp, and because he also did another thing where he took it was a print from a magazine of the Mona Lisa. So somebody took a photo of the Mona Lisa and printed it. And he took the page out and he painted a mustache and a goatee on her and wrote something. And that's also a very famous piece. I could make that. I could just I could do it myself. But I'm not Marcel Duchamp. See? You see where the difference is? See, he's got the status, so he can do whatever he wants and people will treat him like a genius. That's what ultimately it comes down to. He is, as Thomas Sowell said, anointed. So he is chosen. So that means that whatever he does, it's always brilliant.
Yeah.
So
yeah. Unfortunately.
Yeah. Okay.
Can you give me 2 minutes?
Yeah. So do you need to step away for a moment?
Yeah.
I'll read the other super chats in the meantime. All right. Thank you.
All right, brother. Be back in a second.
All right. I got one more. Anonymous gives us $5 and says, I follow a few former Amish YouTubers, and they say that a lot of the younger Amish are leaving the Amish. I suggest you look up Eli Yoder. He's ex-Amish and posts on YouTube. He'd be an interesting guest. I've talked to him, but I will say this, though. I mean, I guess if you are part of something and you leave, there's a reason for it, which means that you felt that it wasn't good. But I don't know if leaving the Amish and coming to the modern world, or at least definitely a modern city as a man, is necessarily better. I mean, there might be something to like having a farm. Maybe you don't have to live with the Amish people, but like having something small to yourself, because a lot of people are doing that, like homesteading. I think that's, if it's in the cards, I would say do that. And what I do want to do, while I got you guys on this real quick, is get on guests that can talk about like things that men will benefit from, like investing, like maybe helping men to acquire, material like wealth that they will need so they can sustain themselves, so that when there is like a significant collapse of our economy or infrastructure, which may happen in my lifetime, I don't know, it would be good for men to be prepared. So like I know people that raise rabbits and they trade with other people, they barter. I know people who raise chickens, they buy a little piece of land, they invest, everybody's like wondering like, what should I get, gold or silver or Bitcoin or whatever. These are probably useful things for men to know because they're going to need it. So all right, you're back?
I am.
All right. So, yeah, that's all the super chows. And thank you guys for all of the kind donations. I don't know if you overheard anything that I said, but if you didn't, I could repeat. I was talking about
that's all right.
Yeah, okay, we could. Well, we've gone for about an hour and a half about, like, getting close,
yes,
so we'll wrap it up if that's okay with you.
Yeah, that's fine. That's fine.
Okay. So, if you guys have any final thoughts, questions, whatever, put them in the chat right away. Really appreciate it, and I will endeavor to read them on the air. Oh, by the way, you can't see him, but my dog Jojo, there is a Jojo cam on the stream itself, and Jojo's just curl up. Oh, you are? Okay, yeah, you can see him. Jojo, hi Jojo, how you doing, buddy? He's my friend. So, and you have any pets?
Currently, just one little kitty cat. We've had her for about 12 years.
Yeah, cats. I'm allergic, but cats are nice. I'm just super allergic. I'm
Even
good
if
with dogs, though.
I still have one.
I didn't always. When I was a kid, I didn't have allergies, but then for whatever reason, when I became a teenager, I became allergic. It was out of nowhere.
Just want to, if you don't mind, man, shout out your chat, bro. Thank you very much, gentlemen, for all those 141 sets of eyeballs in there. Thank you.
Yeah, really appreciate it, guys. Really, really great. So okay, before I close it out, do you have anything that you want to shout out? Anything you're working on? Any place where you want to send people? I have your YouTube and your Twitter, and I think there's a website in there that I got off of your main channel.
No, everything is pretty okay. I mean, the people that attend my channels normally, they are always kept up to date. They know what's going on. So no, no need to shout anything out. I just appreciate you having me on here, man, and look forward to it again.
Yeah, we'll definitely do it again. All right, well, thanks, guys. Jojo wants my attention, so I'm gonna close it out here. But thank you so much for coming on today's show. If you guys like this video, please hit like, subscribe if you're not already subscribed. Hit the bell for notifications. Leave us a comment. Let us know what you guys think about what we discussed in the show today. And please, please, please share this video because sharing is caring. Thank you guys so much for coming on today's episode of the Fireside Chat, and we will talk to you all in the next video.
Thanks, gang.
Men's rights activists are machines, dude. Okay,
Oh, man,
they
thanks for
are
having me on, brother. I
literal
appreciate that.
machines. They are talking point
appreciate
machines.
that.
They
I
are
don't know how far
impossible to
you
fucking
want
deal
to
with,
go with
especially
some
if
of
you
those
have like,
discussions,
especially
so
if you
I
have like
kinda have
a
that.
couple dudes who have good
Okay.
memory on top of that too. Holy shit, you're fucked.
Right. Well, when we do really free speaking, I go to my Rumble channel and I do it there.